Hello class, today we're going to be showing you how to build a PC as well as install Windows onto this computer after it is built. My name is Jackson Woodard.
I'm Parker Delbene.
I'm Battilla.
And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started.
Alright, so these are all the parts that you're going to need. The first thing you got is your power supply, you're going to need a screwdriver, then you have your SATA cables. Next, you're going to move on to your case, obviously. You'll have your CPU fan, your RAM, motherboard, CPU, and a hard drive.
This will be the first step of your build, the power supply. This is what will power your PC. And to get it in your PC, you want to put it in the corner with the wires facing in and the fan side down. And then all you gotta do is just screw it into the back.
Alright, so this is the motherboard, your CPU. It's also going to hold your 2 RAM sticks that we're going to install today. Now your RAM is what your CPU uses to store all of your programs and all of your actively running processes. These 2 sticks here are 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM that we're going to be installing today. And you have to make sure that your RAM is compatible with whatever CPU that you're installing, which we've already made sure of that. So I'll go ahead and show you how to install these. What you're going to want to do is on your motherboard, make sure that these little tabs are pushed down on the top because these are what are going to hold in your actual RAM sticks. Then you're going to line up the slot in your DIMM with the slot on your motherboard. And you're going to want to push in one side at a time until you hear a click. So go ahead and push down on this end. Go ahead and push down on the other. You hear that click? We'll go ahead and do it with the other stick. Alright, and then push down evenly and make sure it's all good. And then next up you have your CPU. So this CPU is an i7-6700K that we're going to be installing today. And what you're going to want to do, so you can see there's an arrow on the CPU. There's an arrow on the brace that holds it in. So you're going to want to line up this arrow with this side on the CPU. So we'll take this brace up. Set the CPU down in there. And then when you're putting the brace down, you're going to want to make sure it's underneath this screw right here. And then all you'll do is press down the lever and lock it underneath. And there you go. You've officially installed your CPU and your RAM.
Alright, so once you have your CPU and your RAM installed, what you're going to do next is in the box that your motherboard came in, it comes with an I/O shield. And basically what this does is it's going to cover all these components that are on the motherboard, and it's going to look like that once it's done. But basically, so next I'm going to show you how to actually put this into the computer case itself. So basically what you want to do is come over here to the slot that it goes in and just line it up, and you're going to hear it snap into place. You just push it in and hear it snapping. Sometimes it's a little tedious, but it'll go in eventually. Snap in all 4 corners. And then next, you want to grab your motherboard. You're going to want to line it up with this I/O shield that we just talked about. And make sure you also line it up with these screw holes because you're going to have to screw it in here in a second. So you're going to want to line this up. Alright, so that's in place. Now you just want to grab your screws as well as the screwdriver and start by just screwing every single hole. Alrighty, once you have that last one in, that is all you have to do to install your motherboard.
Alright, the next step is to put your CPU fan on, and what this does is to keep it cool and it doesn't let it overheat. And before you do that, you want to put thermal paste on your CPU so that it helps it stay cool as well. So we're going to put the fan right over. There's 4 holes you want to connect it to. And normally, a lot of motherboards, you're able to just screw it in, but this one is you pop it in place and then you twist it to lock it in. And then to plug it into the motherboard, you grab your wire here and you want to go to those 3 prongs in the back there. that's what it looks like when it's plugged in. And then also, because this case has a fan built in, you want to take this wire and plug it into the CPU fan plug right there, and you want to align that prong in the back to these slots in the wire. And that's what it should look like when it's plugged in.
Alright, so the next step that we're going to do is we're going to be installing our storage. We have a 1 terabyte WD Blue hard drive, and we have a 128 gig SanDisk SSD. We'll start off with the hard drive. You're going to want to go to where your hard drive storage is located. In this case, it's right here on our case. And you'll just want to go ahead and slide it in. And with this particular case, these are the hard drive mounts. We'll go ahead, plug it in, and rotate it to the locked position. You can see it doesn't move. For our SSD, it doesn't have a specific mounting place, so we'll go ahead and grab our SATA cables. We'll plug it into the SATA port, located here on the SSD, and you'll line it up with the cable. And then we'll put our SSD just on top of our hard drive. We'll plug the other end in to the SATA port located on our motherboard. And there you go. And you'll do the exact same thing with the other SATA cable for your hard drive. Plug the other end in to the other SATA port. There you go. They have been mounted. All right, so next up, we're going to connect the front I/O ports for our case. So as you can see here, we have the I/O port for a external hard drive. We have our high definition audio port, our USB ports, and also our power switches. So first up, we'll go ahead and connect our external hard drive port. This is just a normal SATA cable. And we have an extra free port right here, so we'll go ahead and plug it in right there. Next up, we have our USB port. Now this one, on this specific motherboard, is a little bit concealed. It's over here behind the CPU fan on that connector, right there. We'll go ahead and plug that in. And then we have our HD audio. Now this one is a little bit easier to grasp. That port goes right here on this specific motherboard. You'll obviously have to check your specific motherboard manufacturer to see where all these ports are supposed to go. That's plugged in. Now finally we have our power and hard drive LED switches. Now these can be a little bit daunting, but your motherboard should have writing on it that shows you where these go. These are going to go right over here. You might not be able to see it, but we have a power LED, we have a power switch, a reset switch, and a hard drive LED switch all right there. So I'll go ahead and plug those in. Power switch goes in right here. We have our hard drive switch, goes in the bottom. Our reset switch goes below the power switch. And then our positive and our negative LED switches go right in there. So after you plug everything in, that's what it should look like. Next, finally, we're gonna move on to our power. So this is our 24-pin connector for our motherboard. This should be a pretty easy spot. It's gonna be the biggest connector on the motherboard right up here. Go ahead and plug that in. You'll hear a nice little snap. And then, since we do not have a graphics card, we are not going to be using our PCI Express connectors. These are what these look like. but if you would be installing a graphics card, you would most likely use these. Instead, we're going to go straight over to our CPU pins. These are 4-pin connectors, and these are going to plug in right up here on the motherboard. So go ahead and put those in. You hear a nice snap. And then finally, we have to power our hard drives. So we'll go ahead and grab our hard drive cables. That's what these are going to look like. And these are chained together, so when we route them over here, we should just be able to connect one and then the other right on top. And you'll plug those into your hard drives right on the port down there. You'll hear a nice snap. We'll grab our SSD. And we'll make sure our SSD is plugged in correctly. Right like this. And there you go. Everything should be plugged in and powered. The only thing you have to remember is to make sure that your power supply switch is flipped to 1 right here before you try and turn it on.
Alright, and how to download the Windows Media Creation Tool, you want to look that up on Google, and then you want to go to this link here, download now, and that should take you to this, and then you'll create the installation media, you'll plug in your USB, and then you'll download it there. And then after that, you want to plug it into your PC that you just built and follow the instructions, and it should install it for you there.